So the Cleveland Browns have their guy. Yesterday, the Browns announced they are hiring former Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken as the next head coach of the franchise. With that also came a controversy, as you see it's written out by Tom Parasano, after the Browns informed defense coordinator Jim Schwartz this morning that they were passing over him to hire Todd Monken as head coach. Schwartz was visibly upset, said his goodbyes in the buildings, and told other coaches he's not coming back. Sources tell the Insider. Schwartz is under contract, and the Cleveland wants to retain him, but his future is now unclear. And this was, of course, these are the final three in the running. It was Todd Monken, of course, not really the head coach, Jim Schwartz, as well as passing game coordinator Nate Schilhaas was the final three candidates. There was also plenty of others that backed out in this because I think in part because of just the reports coming out that they were making them keep Jim Schwartz. They wanted to have Jim Schwartz as a defensive coordinator regardless, and I'm sure that certainly turned off some people. So notably, you have Grant Udinski, the Jags OC, Mike McDaniels, former Miami Dolphins head coach, Jesse Minter, former defensive coordinator for the Chargers, now head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, and you also look at Anthony Lynn, former Chargers head coach years ago, and was currently or previously on the Commanders staff, the running backs coach, I should say. And again, this whole situation is tough, and it all goes down to I feel bad for the fans. Before I even get to how I feel about Tom Monken, is he the right guy? Is he going to succeed? It's just this whole process that the Browns had throughout for this coaching search was abysmal, and it was on par. It's the Cleveland Browns way, where you have a data-driven Andrew Berry that is making people do essays, personality tests, and all these things to get the to even have the opportunity to be the head coach of the Browns. You're already making it tough there. Is it in the world that these coaches have to do some homework? No, but it's the fact that it's coming from Cleveland that's doing this, and it's definitely not a good look seeing that, the history of the Browns and what they've done since coming back to NFL in 1999 for their second stint. Definitely not a good look for what they're doing there. I think Andrew Berry should have been out the door with Stefanski. Why he's still there, who knows with that. But again, with them, he put out the search there, and it turned a lot of people off with maybe some part with that. But I think more importantly, more with ownership coming in and saying, hey, you need to make Jim Schwartz your defensive coordinator. And I already sense the president of, well, if I can't pick my defensive coordinator, what else can't I do? Do I have little say in other aspects of the team as well? So I'm sure that turned off a lot of people. And Dinsky inevitably went back to the Jags OC after now also landing the Bills head coaching job there, where they promote Joe Brady as well. Mike McDaniel goes to the Chargers as the OC too. So again, overall, it's been pretty bad there. Out of the three, I would have picked Nate Schilhaas at this point. And there was also reports that came out too that Andrew Berry wanted Schilhaas, but ownership stepped in, or overstepped him, I should say, and wanted Tom Monken. And of course, ownership is going to get their way, and they did with him being the next head coach there. And now this leads to, like I just read about just a moment ago, with Jim Schwartz being livid, being upset that he was not named the head coach. And then to a point, yes, can you bash Jim Schwartz saying he's immature, lashing out, pouting because he didn't get the job? But you also look at for Jim Schwartz too is that when you go through this whole process and they look at him so highly that they're making every candidate make him be the defensive coordinator. Every candidate, you have to be, if that is true, that came out. They said that they have to make Jim Schwartz a defensive coordinator. I'm sure in Schwartz's mind, it made him feel a certain way. It made him feel that they highly regard him. And at the point, as the process was going on and candidates were backing out, and as the pool was getting smaller, that it looks like I'm going to be the head coach. You guys view me so highly and no one else wants it. You might as well make me the head coach. And then out of nowhere, I was ready. Just in my mind, I thought it was a no doubt, no question, a foregone conclusion that he was going to be the head coach at this point. I did not think they were going to hire Schilhaas. Tom Monken, I really didn't hear too much of him, and I thought this was a slam dunk for Schwartz. And then yes, we found the news that Monken was named the head coach over Schwartz, and now that creates a whole other dilemma now, a whole other friction in the franchise that we don't need, where this whole point you, in a way, turn off candidates because you want Schwartz to be with your team so much that now it's all for nothing. You lose all these other top candidates, like, again, Odinsky or McDaniels or whoever you want to name here that walked away that you would have picked as a head coach. And you also miss out on Nate Schilhaas. And I'm sure this probably would have been the same if Schilhaas was named head coach, but you lose on a guy like that your GM wanted. You pick the coach that was maybe least desirable, or least wanted per se. Again, maybe Jim Schwartz was the least wanted there too, because if you will look at his prior stint as a head coach of the Lions, but you pick Todd Monken, who at least for me, I did not hear too much of his name throughout this process, and now you're going to potentially lose Jim Schwartz. Now again, he's still under contract, but again, it also a whole nother dilemma, a whole nother controversy that this franchise does not need. It needs something positive, and even with, if you want to say somewhat exciting news, or it should be exciting to get a new head coach, and you should be talking about the potential, what's going on. It's dimmed because of this. It's overshadowed because of, in part, of this. So I feel horrible for the fans in this process of how it's worked out there. It's been a huge disaster since the beginning of this, but again, we'll see. I think Stefanski's going to do well. I think he'll surprise people with Atlanta in that weak division. In the pieces that he has, I think he will do well. There's certainly questions with the quarterback, but you have Kirk Cousins. I think he will do fine. I'm not going to say this team is a deep playoff run team with him now, but I think he will. I think they will surprise people this upcoming season, 2026. It's just for them. I don't know if I agree with the decision to move off of Stefanski. I do think it was a situation that something had to change. I would have rather had Andrew Berry fired, or at least going out the door with Stefanski. So again, we'll see with that. And to a point, I don't agree with Andrew Berry for a lot of stuff, but out of the three candidates, I probably would have leaned towards Nate Schilhaus. I probably would have at that point. And again, unfortunately, he gets overstepped by ownership. And like I said, ownership is going to get their way with that one. Now moving over to the biggest question for Todd Monken. Do I think it's going to succeed? Do I think he will do well? Well, unfortunately, in terms of the Browns' past, of first off, just the success what coaches have and the coaches they pick, it doesn't seem that likely. I mean, Stefanski was probably the best coach. It was the best coach they had since their return to the NFL in '99, and that's gonna be a big leap for a next head coach to do. Not that Stefanski was amazing during his tenure there, but maybe talks about again how bad the Browns are at picking coaches. I think he's just in a tough situation right now. He's already in a losing situation with who knows what's going to happen to the defensive coordinator. He's with a GM that I think should have been fired years ago at this point, and you have a dysfunctional ownership because ownership knows best with Deshaun Watson, of course, in that dilemma too. That contract still weighs over them too, and what's even going to happen with that? And again, it's a whole nother disaster with that whole other thing I want to talk about, because I think I've talked about that way too much. I think all of us talked about that way too much with Deshaun Watson. So from Monken, I just look at this and it's an uphill battle. It truly is. I can't blame him at this point now, especially at his age. You look at there's only 32 head coaching positions. You might as well jump in and take it in part for that. But when I look at this roster, there is a lot of work to do, especially at the main position, quarterback. And the only, I want to say, selling point is Shedeur Sanders. Or let me correct that. Pro Bowl Shedeur Sanders. After everyone backed out because of injuries, or didn't want to do it because the Pro Bowl is a joke, you have a Pro Bowl quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. So you have that. You have Dylan Gabriel, who at this point, I don't know why they drafted two quarterbacks in the same draft. Only like the next, 2 rounds apart. That's a whole other story for that. So quarterback is a question. Shedeur Sanders had some flashes, but I don't think anything too crazy to solidify himself as the franchise quarterback. Running back Junkins was certainly a great pick there. Unfortunately, gets hurt late in the season, so I'm sure he will miss some time in going into 2026, at least for precaution wise for that. Wide receivers outside of Jerry Jeudy. Even on Jerry Jeudy isn't the best. Had a down season, of course. Only had around 600 yards receiving. After that is a lot of just flyers. Malachi Corley, Isaiah Bond, who went undrafted, didn't really do too much there too. Cedric Tillman hasn't really done too much there. On top of that, you look at the tight end position there. David Njoku, his future I think is up in the air a little bit. You have Harlan Finn Jr. Fannin Jr. who played well this year. I think that was a great pickup for him out of Bowling Green. So you have one promising piece there. Offensive line, you have some questions about the future, especially with I think it's for free agents. I think it's Joe Bitonio and Wyatt Taylor, as well as Cam Robinson. If I go back to their depth chart when I was looking at Spock Track, they might have it. Yeah, I think for up for free agency right for this year, if I saw correctly, it was Cam Robinson, Joe Bitonio, and Wyatt Taylor, and Taylor. And right off the bat, I mean, the offensive line is already a question mark as it is, and you're already potentially going to be losing a couple more pieces on top of that. So again, there offensively there is a lot of things that need to be worked on. Defense, I think overall they are well, of course. And you have your Nebly going to be your defensive player of the year, and Myles Garrett. You have Mason Graham, who drafted high last year, and part of that, trade for Travis Hunter, the trade down, at least getting a extra first round pick. You look at linebacking core solid, Denzel Ward, Pro Bowl, all pro corner there. So the defense is no issue. And if you could try and mend the relationship with Jim Schwartz, and if to bring him back, the defense you don't have to worry about too much. It's really just we have to get the offense right. Now, like I said just a second ago, thankfully in this one you have, just being bad, you have high draft picks, especially with 2 first-round picks. Unfortunately, Jacksonville did not play bad this year, so you have a late first-round pick. I think it's the 24th overall pick for them from Jacksonville, and you have a high pick of your own in the first round there too. So there is plenty of things that you can build off of. Maybe if you want to go towards in the draft, Ty Simpson, if he falls late in the first. Now with Dante Moore backing out of the draft, maybe Ty Simpson gets pushed a little bit higher in the draft boards, but I think I still view him as a mid to late first round pick. That is around at least where the Browns are going to be drafting for the second first round pick. So maybe you get Ty Simpson there, and you get a playmaker with your high first round pick with that one. But again, there's a lot of things to be fixed. I mean, first and foremost, you have to figure out the quarterback position. Is Shedeur Sanders your guy, or are you going to go into like the draft or free agency? This one, some people kind of throw out Malik Willis from the Packers. Is that an option? We'll see about that, or whoever else comes up in free agency at that point there. Is there a trade, maybe? I saw one person throw out the wild scenario of Anthony Richardson. Maybe it's a fresh start there. For that, again, a lot of things all across the board there, all over the place. But quarterback, no question, especially for wide receiver, it was just bad this year, in part because of just the quarterback play as well. But you look at the stats here. I mean, for just solely wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy was your leading receiver at 602, 2 touchdowns. After that was Isaiah Bond with 338, 0 touchdowns. And it's just a dramatic drop off of there. It's like Tillman, 272 touchdowns. Jamari Thrash, 107, 0 touchdowns. And your leading receiver was your rookie in Fannin Jr. with 731, 6 touchdowns. Had a great season with that one. If you look at Njoku 2 missed some games here, only in 12 games, but only had 293 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think with the contract and so forth, I think you move off of him and you move heavily towards Fannin Jr., which again is a great pick. I think Cam Junkins was a great selection. Again, unfortunately, he got hurt late, so he's gonna miss some time. But you're good at the wide or the running back position. If you want to add somebody else for depth at the meantime and then go to 1-2 punch with Junkins when he does come back, I have no issue with that. So certainly running back, maybe in the later rounds, is key. But I think certainly, especially if you're going to hold on to Shedeur or bring someone else in or draft one with your second first round pick, I think most of this draft is heavy offense for Todd Monken and trying to fix this as fast as he can for the 2026 season, because there's going to be a lot of expectations. Certainly very little patience at this point here. Certainly, again, whether Todd Monken was the right choice or not, especially for ownership, they're putting their necks out there again. Not that they really care regardless, because nothing's going to happen to them if it goes wrong. They're still going to own the team, can't fire the owner. But certainly hey, did you make the right pick here? Should you went with Shilha? Should you even, dare I say, go with Schwartz as a head coach? So a lot of things are up in the air for this one to see what works out, especially with Andrew Berry. I mean, at this point, is he ever going to get fired? I don't know. But certainly, I do feel like even with as dysfunctional the Browns are, he definitely has a short leash with the Browns left at this point there. He's been there for a while. I think at some point in time, his job is going to be pulled at some point if things don't work out this year. At least I'm not saying playoffs, but certainly respectable season for the Cleveland Browns there. So again, overall, do I think that Todd Monken will succeed? I don't know. Truly, I don't know. Hopefully, for their sake, for the fans, they get something that is not miserable, that's not laughable, the laughing stock of the league. Hopefully, you can get something respectable this year that have some hope for the 2027 season, 2 years down the road. If this season pans out to be, again, respectable and okay, and you see, okay, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Finally, there is some good pieces going on here with this team. But again, at this point, Monken is up an uphill battle. Everything else is dysfunctional. The quarterback spot is a huge question mark. GM I don't like, and he should have been fired. Ownership is horrendous. A lot of things are not working for him. Unfortunately, if you want to say the negative part of me thinks that he's going to be, at best, a 2-year head coach. I don't know if Monken or anyone really at this point now was going to step in and really have any better luck. Again, out of the three, I would pick Nate Scheelhaas at that point with the final three selections. Certainly, if we were dysfunctional, we weren't forcing coaches to hire Jim, or keep Jim Schwartz, and Didsky was my top choice for the Cleveland Browns at this point. But we are what we are at this point with the Browns. So again, hopefully for their sake it pans out for me. I'm not too high on the selection. It's more, just for all of them at least, but just more of a wait and see of what the process is for the offseason, what the vision is for Monken and what he wants to do with this offense. So again, we'll wait and see. Praying for you, Browns fans. Hopefully you got the right head coach. At least it puts you in the right direction. And maybe at that point, that if it doesn't work out, you can set yourselves up to be a respectable franchise and have more looks from candidates and bring in better candidates to bring it to be the next head coach and take you to a different level. So again, praying for you guys that you got this coach right, and hopefully everything blows over for all this controversy with Schwartz and other aspects too, and it works out for 2026.